What's going on, everybody? Oh, I got an appointment in my clinic and I'm late. About to be late, but I'm on my way anyways. But today I'm going to talk about something. My last video did well too. I go by the views, not by like subscriptions or people following or whatever the case is. But I mean, everything does well on my podcast through Spotify. My definition of well, I always get quite a bit downloads. I'm averaging like 380 downloads a week for my podcast on Spotify, so I'm loving that shit. My wife likes to drop things like, well, imagine if you charged 50 cents for one of those. If I charged 50 cents, I wouldn't get that many fucking hits. It's free. Play that many hits, and it's not about charging people. It's about, but anyways, that'll be later on if after I am done this, pro bono teaching as I'm learning phase, and I feel like I have something to offer, concrete and well. Like right now, I'm breaking down all the stuff I do in no specific order, but if I decide that in addition to the curriculum I'm doing, in addition to like the programs I bought from Brenda Xavier, in addition to all my own magic that I make up myself, the different techniques that I add to my ritual, if I decide that there's a specific order that I think is beneficial to all people, that they can do and get direct results, and that I am probably at some point going to create via Gumroad or wherever, probably Gumroad, make some digital downloadable content that people can buy a program for, probably start somewhere cheap, like $5 or $10 for something as simple as, here's the techniques you do to reprogram your mind. But once again, just like everything I promote on my channel, you have to actually do the work. So, like right now, my last video, I tried to really stress it, that if you start Cabal and the Great Work of Self-Transformation, the book I do, or at least just start doing sigils to implant whatever suggestions in your mind, you can turn finding your passion and purpose into your temporary purpose for the time being. Meaning, you don't know what your life's purpose is, your soul desire, however you want to fucking word that shit. You don't know what that is? Well, what you can do right now is take that and turn that into what you think you should be doing. And by doing that, you will find your passion and your purpose. And I've also gave this warning out on my channel earlier on, and every so often I throw it out there. If you are on a spiritual journey, you're trying to find your spiritual path and purpose and passion and all that, if you're trying to find that, then don't be surprised if you start getting life lessons early. And what I mean by that is, don't be surprised when you start getting, what do you call it, karma, I don't care what you want to call it, whatever the fuck you want to call it, you're going to start having things happen to you. And the reason being is you're asking for your life lessons early. You're asking to get this knowledge early. You're asking to learn the things you're supposed to learn in the entire lifetime. It's almost as if the universe just assumes that no one's going to wake up, so winds up here. Actually, I don't believe that. I believe we create within ourselves. But anyways, point is, if you start down this path, you will be tested more often than if you were just running your own self-programming and just continuously either cursing yourself or speaking your life reality into existence, because that's what everybody's doing. So if right now you're on a spiritual path or journey and you're starting to look into spiritual matters and trying to figure out, okay, how do I manifest things, but you're looking into some of this some days and trying to find those answers, but at the same time you're also looking into all these conspiracy theories, well, the things telling you how to manifest your life probably won't get an emotional response from you. But the things that scare you, like watching fear-based media and conspiracy theories, are going to invoke probably a scared, emotional reaction from you. Therefore, you are focused on both these things separately, but one you're focused on and you're putting emotion into, and the other one you're not. Therefore, you're more likely going to manifest the fear-based situations rather than the other, rather than the manifestations, I guess. So Anyways, holy fuck, look at that. I look like a fucking bum. Anyways, so what I was trying to say was, yeah, if you have two things you're focusing on, and one of which of those is something that you're putting fear, electricity, energy into, well, don't be surprised when that's what you start manifesting. So, what I'm trying to say is, if you are getting into the spiritual path and you want to start manifesting stuff, well, my suggestion is and always will be the free PDF I even think I added it to my yesterday video. I'm not positive. But I think it's on my yesterday video and my yesterday podcast. I'm pretty sure it's within the description here on YouTube, as well as on my podcast video on YouTube. Holy fuck, this car always likes to fucking change things around. Anyways, so if you look at the descriptions within my podcast episode here on YouTube, or on my YouTube last two episodes before this episode, you will see a link that'll bring up Kabbalah, the Great Work of Self-Transformation. You also see it in the other two. Start that curriculum. It'll tell you all the practices you need to do during your neophyte and all that. And, you just start doing it. It's pretty fucking simple. That being said, doing the curriculum itself isn't going to be simple. None of it's going to be simple. It's going to be very hard and challenging. Alright, so challenging curriculum was the last thing I said. I'm back at home now. Clean again, no drugs again in my system, motherfuckers. Fuck you, Thunderwiz. No, I'm just kidding. I've got no problem with him. So, I don't know if this episode I'm going to make here, I'm just going to stop talking about Kabbalah and the Great Work of Self-Transformation. I don't know if it's in my yesterday episodes, but I definitely know it's in the two before that. My Masterpiece episode didn't turn out to be a masterpiece. I didn't even try dissing Thunder Wizard, although I think I might have made some very subtle disses at him in there, and that was unconscious. But it's definitely in that episode, Kabbalah, Great Work, Self-Transformation, and it might even be in yesterday's episodes, but that I'm not positive about. All that aside, what I'm here today to talk about is I'm going to bring up conspiracy, conspiracy. Let's say conspiracy. And the reason for me bringing this up, this is my favorite topic of conspiracy. Why? Because it's not harmful to your health. It's not harmful. It's not going to put you in a fear base. I mean, maybe it will, depending on how you look at it. If you think people living in the center of the earth is somehow fearful or scary, then, maybe. But I think this is just my opinion. But I think the reason for flat earth versus globe earth, okay? I think the reason for both sides of these things is because of the truth being somewhere in the middle that they don't want you to have. So they rather you pick globe earth versus flat earth and fight against those details, instead of looking at the outstanding information and facts about the fact that the earth is cavernous, there's water in the earth. There's been multiple people, physicists, mathematicians, old pictures of NASA, the Russian video footage of 1987, or was it 78? One of those two, where they say the Northern Lights, Aurea Borealis, I can't remember the technical term for the Northern Lights, are coming from the center of the earth, and because of that, it's also that's where they come from. And you can see this anomaly on other planets, and how the other planets all have a superimposed, either blanking out the North and South Pole. And I mean, there's a ton of evidence. And once again, I can't prove this, so it really makes no difference whether I look into this or not. It makes no difference if I go down this rabbit hole or not. But I like this. This is one of the things that I am so drawn to. It's incredible. So, Thunder Wizard and other people say, for programming, to find your soul desires, for other shit like that. Things you don't like doing, the things that you cringe, the things that you hate, the things that, is a good way to tell where you're programmed. Is one way of telling where you're programmed. Also, things that you have an emotional response to. So if someone says Jesus is a fake fucking piece of shit, or Odin says Jesus is a coward, you know, if you take offense to that, even though you're not Jesus and he's not making fun of you, well, you have programming in you that Jesus is a real person. Anybody offends Jesus is a fucking piece of shit. And I'm not dissing you for that, but now you can identify that and you can move on past that. Well, when I learned about AGARTHA, Shambhala, Inner Earth, how, and you're going to hear a bunch of things on here, that from things that Thunder Wizard talks about, to things, anyways, there's a whole bunch of different cultures that have Inner Earth, AGARTHA stories, and I think it's very possible. The also thing I like about this is there's a physical realm in the Inner Earth, but there's also a spiritual realm to the Inner Earth. And as above, so below. There's a sunshine in the earth, just like there's a sunshine outside of the earth. Within our bodies, there's people living in our bodies, our cells, living organisms making up this one big organism. So would it not make sense that there's a bunch of organisms in inner Earth and then outer Earth? Like I said, you might have this whole thing backwards, thinking you go up to heaven. Well, maybe the next realm is inner Earth. Maybe you do inner Earth first and then you come to outer Earth, and we just don't remember. Or maybe it's the difference. Maybe there's a difference there. Who knows? Apparently, from stories about inner Earth, there's tall beings down there because of the different kind of light. Well, this could be these giants that people are talking about. Maybe the Bible people, or not Bible, because giants are in the Bible, but the Book of Enoch should have been part of the Bible. Potentially, it's from the same people, same body of work, same names in it, same whatever, but it was taken out of there because there's too many scary things in there. Like I said, too much astrology stuff in there. Enoch, and, you know, gets taught by Archangel Oriel, the Earth Angel. Well, maybe it was Raphael. No, I think it was Oriel. All about astrology. But then a few verses before that says how the Watchers came down, or the fallen angels came down, or the demons came down, depending on which Bible you look at, and taught men and women astrology and how to paint their eyelashes and all this other shit. Blah, blah, blah. It's all fucking horse shit. It's to keep you away from this stuff. But if an angel comes and teaches you astrology, it's okay. So, us people who like astrology, who all of a sudden get these thoughts around us to look up astrology, well, how do you know that's not an angel telling us that? What, you think some angel is going to physically appear to you in this physical realm? Do you really, truly think that? More likely, you're going to get an idea, thoughts. You're going to have a bunch of things coming to you in sequential order as you're writing or speaking. And it's going to be profound. And then you got two choices. Either pretend like you're smart and got it, or thank wherever it came from, even though you can't say, well, I don't know how that came to me, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm grateful that you keep doing that for me. Something like that will keep that energy flowing. Pretending you're all smart and you know everything stops it, and then you got to start fucking acting all self-righteous and make an emotional block, and then you don't know shit. So you choose. That's why I credit these things. Knowledge that comes through me that you guys listening to, it's not mine. I'm the channel, I'm the vessel. The ideas flow through me. I'm able to keep myself apart from it enough to give you what I believe is a pretty depolarized view of things, both sides of the fence, trying to incorporate a perception that all should incorporate, but at the same time that fits both right and left, and positive and negative people, and male and female, and whatever else. But, so, I forget where I was going with all that Book of Enoch shit and all that. But anyway, so yeah, so the inner Earth, who knows? Maybe they were writing about that fucking shit. And maybe they were sent down there. Who the fuck knows? As if you believe the Bible. I don't believe the Bible. I believe the Bible. I mean, I believe the Bible was inspired. It was written by a person. It might have been inspired by the same things that inspired me to talk about this shit. But that would be like me taking ceremonial witchcraft and all the information I have on here, making a holy book of it, killing everybody off the planet, except for me and my wife, and maybe a few other choice girls, and then me fucking all these girls and making new babies, repopulating the earth, and taking my religion and saying, this is the religion of everybody, this is how mankind started, and just, here you go. It's like, well, that's pretty brutal, bud. and then just blame it on God, killed everybody, even though it was me. And after God killed everybody, I was chosen to restart the world. Like, how do you know Noah didn't just kill everybody and say he fucking had a boat and all this shit? And just, maybe his wife helped him fucking do it all too. Who knows? Like, you can't just take these people's word for this shit. Nonetheless, you can still learn from that. Even if you take that point of view that I just said about Noah being a fucking psychopath and a serial killer, killing everybody on Earth, and saying it's because they're all sinning, so they all had to die. It's like, yeah, people that are doing bad things, let's just kill them all. Because killing is not a bad thing, you hypocrite. Like, it makes no sense. Thou shalt not kill. So since these people aren't killing yet, but they're doing other bad things, I'm going to kill them. Like, fuck off, God. You're such a fucking insecure prick. I don't like talking like this because I got people on here that still believe in God and Jesus and haven't dealt with that programming. And when I talk like this, they drop me, but whatever. You know, I get up to 46, I drop down to 44. I get to 45, I drop down to 43. I got up to 50, and then I dropped down to 47. And now I'm back down to 44 from there. It is as it is. People will come to the truth as soon as they can. I'm not saying you can't get significance from the Bible. You really can. I like listening to Jordan Peterson, how he breaks down the Bible. I think it's top notch. It doesn't all work for me, but I still think it's top notch, you know? And I can separate myself from that. I can separate myself from his religious beliefs that he is trying to teach to other people, whatever the reason, and still appreciate the poetic interpretation and metaphor and of the parables and metaphors that are made in the Bible. Like, Christians go around telling you the Bible is 100% real, yet like throughout the Bible it says this is metaphors, similes, parables to teach a lesson, like how Jesus taught people. When he spoke to people, he talked in parable. Why is that? Well, because you teach through symbolic. If you give someone a story of pictures, get pictures in their heads going, like of a farm and sheep and all that, you can detach from that and just look at the situation. Whereas if you take two people that are fighting, like Jesus' disciple, was it Simon Peter, and the fucking banker guy that no one liked, the tax collector, Matthew, I think. I'm not sure though about that. They hated each other and they were both in the same house, and Peter was all pissed off. Well, instead of just saying, okay, well, this is why I love you both, and because you and you are the same and under different circumstances, Simon Peter, you might have been this guy doing this stuff and you think he's a sinner, and you, Matthew, might have been Simon Peter thinking the other one's. You guys are mad at each other because through your own little circumstantial bullshit, through your own little perspectives, hate each other. Yet, you guys are both from the same source, and just to hate each other is to not love yourself and to not love God and whatever else. So instead of doing that, and these people still can't separate from their own feelings, he teaches within a story about a sheep and the sheep going away, or the prodigal son, or whatever the story was, so that they can separate from their feelings and take in the whole message. And then once 20 minutes or so is up, because even if someone proves you wrong when you're mad at them and you know you're wrong, you're still going to be in that vibration for like 20 minutes after. I think that's like a minimum. It could be longer too, depending on the person. So you get them to separate that, and then they can come back from a more neutral state and see the point of view better than just when they're all in this panic, pissed off rage. Jesus taught like that for a reason. The Bible teaches like that. It's not meant to be taken symbolically. So I'm not like the Thunder Wizard and I just shit on the Bible and think it's just all bad, because we don't know the original intent of people who made that Bible. I'm not defending it, and I'm not saying I like it or anything like that. I'm simply saying whoever made the Bible is not the same people that are saying this is the Holy Catholic Bible, we have to use it in a court of law, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this with this. That's today, and that's down the line, maybe in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1400s, who knows, year 300 in the Council of Nicaea. Those fucks did it. But I'm talking about the people who wrote those stories, and even though they get translated and shit gets lost in the translation, I still think, because of how this universe works, the books that we have in the public eye, just like the movies that come out. People write movies all the time. Even Thunder Wizard's newest video about the Jedis and all that, about Star Wars. He says that the people writing this probably don't know what they're writing, but things come through them. Well, the Bible's the same way. It's older messages from an older time where the corpus callosum was just starting to make that nice connection bridge in between the two hemispheres of the brain, connecting the right and the left. So people were starting to get messages from what they say was God, when it was just the opposite side of their fucking brain. Well, not the opposite side, but you know what I mean, the different levels of the brain. So the limbic system was speaking to the neocortex, or maybe they were just slowly developing the neocortex, or maybe the neocortex was just developed. So they didn't know they had the other two brains. So, you know, when they went to sleep, they don't know what happens. And then they wake up the next day, you know? Anyways, doesn't matter. Point is, this is all works. The movies we got today, you could take all of our movies. This is like what the Bible is. The Bible would be taking every fucking movie since the creation of movies. Take every one of those movies and you put them in a body of work. Make one big fucking movie. Or you write it all down and put it in one big book. That's the Bible. Because all the stories in the Bible, every story in the Bible, you could be like, hey, it's kind of like this movie. Oh, this kind of happens in this movie. You can do that. There's a reason. And now they're doing it so obvious, like you straight up got Thor in movies. You got Odin in movies, in the heavens, in other realms, and Earth is in between there. They're not even hiding the symbolicness, the spirituality in the movies. They're straight up showing you it. It's insane. But anyways, enough about all that. I'm going to play the AGARTHA movie that I really like. It's from The Universe Inside You. It kept getting taken off the channel. And if you go to Universe Inside You right now, it's not even on the channel anymore. I had to screen record it a while ago off of something else. That's not true. What am I saying? I had to like it. It's in one of my, I don't know where it is. It's in something of mine. And I'm going to screen record it now. I'm going to put it into this video so you can watch it. It's like 45 minutes long. It's amazing. And it goes into all the reasons why there's very big possibility that there is a hollow earth. From earthquakes to gravity and the mass of the earth being wrong, to birds that are given trackers that fly north instead of south and they lose their trackers, to guys like Admiral Byrd and all these other people that tried to go to the North and South Poles and found lush, beautiful land, hot temperatures, and an abundance of resources. All these different things, to the space, to all the other planets having hollow ends, and I won't do it justice by just playing the audio. So I'm gonna get copyright infringements and all that shit. I don't give a fuck. You need to watch this. This is my favorite piece of conspiracy. And I think it's because this is somewhere. Now, is this the whole truth? Is this the absolute truth? No. But it's divinely inspired by people who put all these facts together. All these guys researching, these travelers before internet and all this, decided to, oh my God, end of the world. See, Ralph's smart. I like the guy, but you can't see this. Maybe I'll screen record it real fast after. Let's see if I can do that right now, actually. No, I can't. Watch Infinite Waters Diving Deep, live in 30 minutes. 1W, end of world number 1. I don't know what the fuck all that means. But his messages are darker. And that's okay. Because out of the dark we find the light. And I get all that. But something not right now with Ralph. And I don't know if he's going through a hard time or what. But I can't quite put my finger on it. He's having a hard time. Something's going on with him. And I don't think Ralph's an evil guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's trying to be a cult leader. None of that shit that people say about him. I could be wrong. I could be biased. I don't know. I don't think any of that's true. I don't like when people say that about him either. But at the same sense, I can see where they're coming from. My wife said something similar before too. Like, I think he's trying to brainwash people. And it's like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know what he's doing. I take what I need from him and then put it away. You know, most of the time I like watching it to see how close he's getting to truth and see if he's not just going to be so vague and if he's going to come straight out and say stuff. And, you know, he surprised me every once in a while he does, but you know, the world's in a darker place right now, so his message is darker. He is very in sync with nature, and that's a good thing when you're trying to affect nature, but the problem is being in sync by nature too much will have nature control you, like nature controls the trees. That tree has to die right now, or at least go to sleep and stop, is it sap? Stop producing getting the water to go into the leaves because it's going to freeze and the whole tree would die. So if you think this tree, maybe it could stay alive all winter running water through it. No, it can't. It doesn't have the same system as a pine tree. And the reason for that is that pine tree, for some reason, the water and the sap and different things going through it won't freeze, versus that one would. And if that one froze and the water froze, then it's more likely to break and won't be around next year. Nature is very smart. So if you're in sync with nature and you're not taking the reins, you're just going for the ride, well, then nature can make you go for a ride right into front of a car and die. And I'm not saying that she's going to kill you. She's going to watch out for you. But you're going to get lazy when fall comes. You're going to go on a hibernate when winter comes. You're going to get horny in the spring. You're going to party all summer. You're just going to be in sync with the cycles. And moon waxes and wanes. So when the moon's waxing, you might be positive and want abundance and giving nice messages. And when the moon's waning, like right now, Ralph's more dark, talking about more dark stuff. So he might be too in sync with nature and has to find a way to separate a bit from that. Stay in sync enough with nature so that he can affect nature and still manifest, but pull enough away that nature doesn't control him. That's the difference between the witch. Okay, so all those people walking around don't believe in spirituality are controlled by their programming. Essentially, they are controlled by nature. They believe nature is just whatever, blah, 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 blah. But then there's spiritual beginning, year and a day initiation phases when you get in sync with nature. And then from there, you can not control nature, but you can affect nature, but nature can still affect you. But it's more fast. It's not simply by what's been programmed in you your entire life, by your environment. This is why it still says essentially you're still part of nature, but more like nature's going to kill us. And the earthquakes and all this shit we can't control. We can't control our life. So you're controlled by nature, but you have no control whatsoever. Whereas when you start becoming able to be in sync with nature, like I just said, like I think maybe Ralph Smart, and I'm not trying to say I'm above him because that's not the case. He's been doing this a lot longer than me. So no, much respect to Ralph. But what I'm saying is if he's too controlled by nature, too much in sync with nature, then that's the difference between the witch, the magical practitioner. And I'm not even getting into degrees and adepts and elders and all that. I'm just simply saying that after you get in sync with nature, you have to peel away from that, be able to stay in sync with nature, but not be controlled by it. You start making your own destiny, and you do this through your words, your actions, your thoughts, your magic you're performing on a daily basis. You start controlling your life circumstances, but you're doing it in accordance with your will and with nature. You're putting it into the collective consciousness, or unconsciousness. You're putting it into the collective. It goes up into the astral, where everybody's astral is. We're all connected through that astral, and then whatever you get up in there, create up in there, filters back down here. Simple as that. So that's where you get to separate from. But even when you're in sync with nature like that, you can still manifest, because nature, you guys are like one and the same. You finally figure it out that you're one and the same as nature, but that can take you whole, so you really got to watch out. But anyways, I'm going to play the AGARTHA thing right now. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. I'm probably going to come on and talk about it. I'm going to rewatch it at the same time with you right fucking now, real time-ish, in manner of speaking. And yeah, I'll be back on after, so if you want to hear more of what I have to fucking say for whatever reason, check it out. Merry meet, merry part, and no, that's Purchase line. I shouldn't say that shit, but I really like it. And you should watch, I think it's Intro to Witchcraft, the first part, where he explains why they say that. Merry meet again. To know, to dare, to will, and to be silent. That's the code. That's our code. Magical practitioners, witches alike. To will, to dare, to... I fucked it up already, to be silent. Anyways, thank you for checking it out, but I'll be back on after. I'm going to make sure I am. Anyways, enjoy this shit. Really retain what's going on here. You don't have to believe it. I can't even finish. You don't have to believe it. I'm not trying to force my beliefs on you. This is my favorite piece of conspiratorial shit, because it's not fear-based where it's going to affect my reality. It's not going to, whether I believe in this or I don't believe in this, I'm not going to bring it into reality. And if I do bring it in reality, well, it's not really a big deal. Not killing anybody. Like, people focusing on COVID being something that's going to kill us all is actually dangerous to the population. People not believing in COVID whenever it's a real thing, well, it could be dangerous. But if you don't believe in something, well, then you can actually help fix that problem, which is kind of where I stand. I know there's some truth to it, but I'd rather put my focused energy into No one else should die from this fucking thing, so I'm gonna say it's not fucking real, so it can't affect me. But anyways, I'm not gonna get into that. But knowing this, I think this is the reason why they want you to pick flat Earth or globe Earth, because it's neither, but it's both. But it's neither, and it's both, and it's all, and it's none, and it's all that shit. We are cavernous. We are layers. So the flat Earth and globe don't matter. We have an inner Earth where we can go hang out. And that's been hidden from us. And that's why they'd rather you fight over flat or globe, so you never figure out you can go inside the Earth and then start some shit there. And that's probably why this was taken off Universe Inside You and every other fucking channel this was put on. No attention to it, no controversy, no nothing. Just get it off there. Just get it off there. Just get it off there. No warning, no nothing. Just get it off there. I've had to refine it multiple times. But anyways, without further ado, here we go. I think I talked it up enough. Holy fuck, that sun's bright. Alright, well, beautiful though, eh? Weird too, it's only 2 o'clock and look, that's the west. If I was to do my compass on here and screenshot it or something like that, you would see the west. But anyways, that's Canada, baby. We're pretty north. I better take my glasses off for this. So before I get to AGARTHA, I was trying to get to a point earlier about how I get feelings, knowing things, whether they're real or not, intuition or not, I can't tell you. But this is one of these things, especially when I talk about Admiral Byrd, okay? I get a really bad emotional response. Not bad as in, I mean strong. Like, I just watched it, and like always, it brings me to tears. Like, my eyes well up when they start talking about he's a remarkable man, especially with his journal entry. So before I play the whole thing, I'm going to play 1 minute and 30 seconds here, and then I'm going to hit the recording right after I play it. You know what I mean? Anyways, and then it's like that sun's coming right through me. That was the reflection. See, that's my hand. I'm powerful. Light. Light. Fuck. Anyways, God, I'm stupid. Anyways, so I'm gonna play it, and I'll show you. I'm not fucking around. I'm not an actor or anything like that. But this is what I mean by, you can find your programming this way. You can find what matters to you this way. Is there something your soul came here to do? Do you have an actual soul desire? I don't know. But what I do know is whether it's I grab a skateboard out of that garage over there and I start riding it, I go play hockey with my friends. You know, there's a feeling that comes across me when I do those things. I love that thing. I love doing that. But, you know, I don't want to skateboard all fucking day. But I like doing that. Love it. When I'm about to record, while I'm recording, heart center. Oh, shit, didn't work. Heart center. Whoa, Jesus. Jaw. That ain't no filter either, baby. That's me in the sunshine. Make a delay on it. Here's the delay. Watch this. Delay. Oh, baby. Sorry, I'm such a fucking idiot. Point I'm trying to get at is, my left hand absorbs, right? Right hand projects. Absorbs. Projects. Oh, man, I gotta stop. Okay. What I'm trying to get at, I'm such an idiot. I feel like I'm a dumbass. I should edit this. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is when I record stuff, I get emotional too. I get into my whatever, but it's more like a passion, a Mars energy. This is water. This is emotional. This is maybe something blocked up inside of me. Maybe it's something I'm supposed to follow. I don't know. I did a lot of research on this, and ultimately I just figured, like, I can't ever prove it unless I become a pilot and I go against orders and I fly over the magnetic pole, which, knowing a bit about magnetics, it's dangerous enough just as it is. I mean, those laws could be there just to keep people safe. And at the end of this thing, they talk about Corey Good, and I'm not a big fan of Corey Good, even though the things they say at the end of this is very balanced and a nice way to put it. But they show with David Wilcox and all that shit, I don't know. There's just something about both of them, the vibe coming off of them, that a lot of this wasn't completely sincere and not completely... A lot of things they say I knew was kind of real and true, but then there's a lot of it's like, man, that's just... Anyway, it doesn't matter. But And I know a lot of this pushes the alien agenda and shit like that and whatever. Take what you need out of this, because is this all true? No. I'm not telling you to take this all as fact. I'm just saying there's something to this. And when I hear about Bird and the other people that mysteriously died that were doing this, and like I said, even this video, for example, just got kaboshed, gone, done. And then it has to keep being re-uploaded. It even says that re-upload. And I did my due diligence. I recorded it to make sure it never goes away, so it's always there for people to see. But anyways, I'm gonna play a little part here. But this is one of these things that I know I'm supposed to talk about, I'm supposed to look into. It's like my body, emotional part of my body, is giving me a response, telling me this is something, you know, it's important. I hear a song and I get these emotional things happen to me as well when I'm listening to music. Music speaks to me in many ways. But anyways, let's just get to it, shall we?
In closing, Bird said he briefed the Pentagon of his message from the Master, was interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team, and ordered to remain silent in regard to all that he learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible is all he could call it. He concluded, "I'm reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders." 10 years later, he wrote a final entry. "These last few years elapsed since 1947 have not been kind. I must state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret as directed all these years. It's been completely against my values of moral right. Now, I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me. But as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I've seen the truth, and it has quickened my spirit, and has set me free. I've done my duty towards the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now, the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown." Needless to say, this is an extraordinary story from an extraordinary man. Would Bird's own son publish false information that would defame his beloved father? Or did Bird himself falsify all this story in order to make a cruel joke of his life and legacy? Whether or not you believe this story, his influence, moral stature, and valor can hardly be argued.
Alright, I changed my mind. I don't want to show you my fucking watery eyes. And I mean, you guys have seen it enough. I get emotional in some videos already, so you guys have seen this enough times, and I don't need to do it again. But just know that that's the reason my glasses are back on, because it gets to me every fucking time, man. Every time I hear about him and his extraordinary whatever, everything he's been through, it's like I take on that emotion that girl, it's like coming through him, through another person, and I still can feel it, you know? Birch's video I played recently, just to get off topic for a second, but it's a Samhain video, and he says Samhain's differently for him this year because he lost his mom recently, and every fucking time, man, I can feel that emotion in him, especially at the end. He says, "Mom, I'm honoring you in front of the world," when there's a big gap there, and it's like drops coming out of my eyes every fucking time. I can't even help it. And he's like, "I'm not gonna end it on a sad note." And that's how you know, like, you know, it hurts. Even though he's a witch and you're supposed to celebrate life, that hurts. You know, it's the kind of thing I pick up on these things. And for anybody to say that, you know, empathic and this and that, and you can't feel emotion and all this shit, you can't. It doesn't mean other people can't. You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and disregard empathic whatever. Like, ran into this girl the other day. My wife worked with her, and she recently took a job change, and my wife was asking her why. She's like, it's gonna sound crazy, but she's like, I would talk to the older people on the phone, and anytime someone was having a hard time, you know, and there's nothing I could do for them because, you know, they didn't pay into taxes, now they have no money built up, they didn't pay into the CPP all year, and they got no cash. And she's like, I would literally feel like I would feel so bad for them, like as if it was happening to me. I couldn't separate myself. She had to do therapy and all this shit, and ultimately she ended up just having to change jobs. You know what I mean? You tell me what the fuck that is. You tell me what the fuck that is. That has specific people having specific things. Now, it doesn't mean just because you don't feel that, if you don't, it doesn't make it not real. It's not real to you. Everybody has this to a certain degree, and depending on the planet placement, you can see where this will affect you more. But anyways, all that aside, this is why this is important. It's because whoever they are, whether it's like Bert said, the military-industrial complex, or the dark forces, Ralph Smart calls it the inorganic ones, whoever you think it is, whatever you think it is. I mean, the whole fucking, you're going to hear about Nazi Germany going there and all the soldiers disappearing, and some people say, well, did the soldiers disappear, or did the Americans, recruit a bunch of soldiers after World War II, or a bunch of scientists? It's like, well, they may have, because of they had to make account for all those bodies that went missing, so they just pretend all those soldiers were scientists, or they wanted to replicate the shit Germany used to get there, or the technology Germany had there, because they realized, holy fuck whatever we were fighting about, who really knows? I'm not saying what happened in World War II didn't happen, or it did, or any of that. I'm just saying there's so much things we don't know. And what we do know is that the media, or the heads of state, the elites, whatever. I don't say Illuminati because I am Illuminati. But all these people that are controlling the fucking world, let's say, they have us focusing on either A or B, and there's none of their 24 alphabet letters. It's just A and B. Or it's 1 and 2. Or 1 and 0. It doesn't matter. It's either night or day, good or bad, right or left. And, the main purpose to have everybody polarized is so if everybody's polarized, whether it's about COVID, whether it's about sports, hockey, baseball, fucking whatever. You pick one team or the other team. You can have a bunch of teams, so you can have a bunch of different people incorporated, but they only had 2 teams to every sport. Probably serve the purpose better. But on every individual, that's why the political thing, it's a big game. Like when they're talking about the electoral college, or however you say that, it's like points. Oh, Biden's up by this many points. Oh, Trump's down by this many points. It's a game. It's a fucking game. You're polarized. They're polarizing you. What is it? It's the polls, is it not? Oh, let's go to the polls, shall we? What polls are they going to? The positive and the negative polls, right? The poles of the earth, positive the Antarctica. They don't want you learning about the poles of the earth, because if you learn about the poles of the earth, you will depolarize yourself. Because you'll realize those poles of the earth, there's no positive and negative. It's a fucking tunnel, probably right through. It's one pole. Even though one's plus and one's minus, they both reach the middle, probably connect to each other. Point is, you're going to the polls. Go vote. Put in your vote. So you can become polarized. You're one of those poles. Please become polarized and give away your consent so we can do what we want with it. It's ridiculous. So then once everybody's polarized, what do? They give you 2 options to every subject. So if there's an inner earth, an AGARTHA, whatever the case is, it's very interesting what they say about the Chinese military and government going into Tibet and trying to overcome where AGARTHA, whatever it was. Can't tell you if that's true or not, and it's not going to even serve me if I go look into it. Either I'm going to find out it's bullshit, and that'll just be like, oh, what the fuck? Fucking spirituality, this shit sucks. Or I find out it's true, and it's like, oh, everything is fucking false. And it's like, what I do know is I can affect my own reality, and so that's what I'm going to do. But nonetheless, if you're going to look into conspiratorial stuff, make sure it's something that's not going to harm you. If you put fear into being a targeted individual, then you're going to have fucking things happen to you, because you're putting thought forms and emotions into those thought forms around you. If you think reptilians, well, then you're going to cause that reptilian shit to happen to you, because you are that fucking powerful. Start looking at AGARTHA, realizing there's beings in the inner earth, start putting emotion into there. Well, if there really is beings down there, and those are the beings that are actually the pleiadiens, so the people in AGARTHA, this is Corey Gooden, what he says, people in AGARTHA are pretending to be pleiadiens, because people are all focused out there. But how do you know? Maybe we're in inner Earth right now, and if I go to that fucking big blue sky up there, I'm actually just gonna find my way out of a hole. I doubt it's there, obviously, but point is, maybe the people in Agartha thought that too at one point. You take this by scale, how big the Earth is. Once you get down to the bottom of that fucking hole, and you end up seeing how high the sky is. It's like, whoa. When you're in a plane, you see the sky, it's a little different, but whenever you come all the way down, anyways, I'm not gonna get into that. Just gonna mind boggle people, but point is, if this is some kind of truth, well, it's like, well, how do we get people to not look into it? We'll just leave it in plain sight. Because if we polarize people, then it won't matter, even if they see the North and South Pole, that there's a big hole, they're still gonna say, well, it's flat. No, it's fucking round. No, it's flat. No, it's round. No, it's flat. No, it's round. It's like, do you guys not see there's a tunnel? There's many layers. Like, you could have like magical fucking lightning or a ball of fire projecting out of your hand in front of somebody who's highly into the Trump Sanders fucking the voting right now. You could be like, look guys, I got lightning coming out of my hand. This is insane. Look, magic's real. Even though that's not really magic. I'm just using a ridiculous statement. And you're like fucking getting their eyebrows, singeing them, and they'll be like, oh, stop singeing me. I gotta fucking tell this Bernie Sanders person that Trump's better. No, you fucking blah, 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 blah. You could be singeing both their eyebrows and they won't even fucking know. And before you say that's insane, there's been these things done where there's a big fucking guy in like a monster, dragon, dinosaur suit going in front of people while they're so focused on something that the people don't even see it. And that's one of these tricks to getting somebody. If you want to hit somebody in the face without them seeing fast, there's this little technique where you go up, straight up the center of the body. Remember how I said when you cross this line, you cross this line? Well, because the sides of your brains are both controlling the sides of your body, everybody has this natural blind spot down here. So your peripheral starts after a certain point, right? So if you focus down here right now, you can kind of see it. But there's a point where someone's looking up at you, you want to hit them, and they don't see it, you go straight up in the middle, okay? Well, that's what that's also what this causes. Everybody's on the right or the left that they can't see right in the fucking middle anymore. So anyways, that's all I want to say. That's all I'm going to probably add to this. The video will do the rest of the speaking for you, but seriously, watch to the end. The beginning's got points, the ending's got all the different people that have been to Inner Earth and their testimonies and everything about that. It's phenomenal. It starts off with facts, math, science on why it's very possible that that's there, and then pictures of the planets and their different holes at the poles, and then how the northern lights are caused potentially by that, and then it's amazing. It's 45 minutes long, so I think I've had about 45 minutes right now before it and 45 minutes after it. It's not all about Admiral Byrd. It's barely about. There's probably he's probably got the biggest part in there, but it gets into Tibetans and all these the Vedics, Hindu, Buddhism, all these different cultures and different ways of explaining Inner Earth. So anyways, without further ado, I'll take my sunshine away from you. Sorry, I shouldn't subjugate you guys to that. Anyways, have a great fucking day. Remember, don't be fucking fooled. You hold the power. You are the fucking power. We are all one. We are all the power. I think even in this, she says, how this, as the saying goes, nature abhors a vacuum. And it's explaining how even the deepest depths of the ocean, if there's nothing there, nature fills that spot. And those fish couldn't see anything, so they manifested their own fucking light. You should look at those ugly fucking fish with big fucking things coming out of their head with a light in front of them, just so they can see what's up. Well, if there's cavernous places within the earth, then nature would fill a vacuum. It gets into the Mayans, how they disappeared, and that's where they went to Inner Earth. Different Vikings that disappeared went to Inner Earth. Atlantis, Bermuda Triangle, all these different things. It's so fascinating. I'm not saying all this is true. I mean, some of these things could have nothing to do with Inner Earth, but just kind of fit the narrative. And that's the thing, when you're trying to figure out something mysterious that you have no proof for, you could really reach and grasp for straws. But I think there's enough here that, really proves this. But once again, I'm playing this episode just to show you that I'm human. I like conspiracies too. I like to watch conspiracy stuff. But even now, where I'm at a point where I think I can control my state and be depolarized, I still don't watch conspiracy theories about things that are going to harm me, because there's no use in watching something that's going to harm you. That's like saying, "Oh, I'll just put the needle of heroin in me, but I won't push the thing." It's like, well, when are you going to push the thing? I'll just watch it, but I won't believe it. Well, no, after you watch it so many times, it doesn't know the difference between real or fake. If you watch the Try Your Own Brain video I put on not that long ago, before this, 2 videos before this, 3 videos before this, he says your mind, body, there's no difference between imagination. Anyways, doesn't matter. Same concept. It doesn't know the difference between real and fake, imagined or dream or reality. It's all the same to your body and mind. But anyways, that's it for me. Take back your power. Start the process. Do the simple techniques and things you're being told to do, and you will simply change your life. But if you keep focusing on things that you think are stopping you from doing this, well, then you're going to keep expanding reasons why you can't do this, yet you've never even tried. You're just sitting there saying, I can't do it because of this, when in reality, if you started doing it, you would start getting results. So, I guess on top of Thunder Wizard saying action, 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 well, I'm promoting action as well, but action to start these mystical, esoteric, occult secrets. Stop thinking this shit's bad and it's Illuminati, because it's not. It was told you that that's what it was, so you would stay away from it, so you can still keep being a targeted individual or a reptilian victim, or even worse, just somebody who's victimized by society and who's going to stay in poverty and depressed and ultimately go nowhere and have to redo this over and over and over again. But at least if you figure these things out in one life, there's a good chance you'll figure it out in every life, and that means you figure this out now in this life if you're 50, 40, 30, 60 even. Well, next lifetime maybe it's 40, next lifetime maybe it's 20, next lifetime you wake up with a gift and you can make your life the way it wants. And maybe that's why some people, as soon as they're born, they're fucking stars their whole life. Other people become stars, can't handle it, and they die, or whatever the case is. Some people become stars later on, some people become stars. Point is, you figure this out in one lifetime. If you don't get to evolve out of this, you're probably going to keep figuring it out every lifetime. That's just an opinion, but I'm pretty positive it'll stay with your soul. I don't know, though. I don't know. But, hell, if you can start adding your consciousness to your subconscious, so that when you leave this place, you will be able to navigate the other realms, well, then there's a good chance that that's what's going to happen. Anyways, later, everybody. This is the chosen one. This is the ceremonial witch, teaching you how to learn about inner world. Fuck, I'm all fucked up today. Anyways, have a great fucking day.
Did you know that before winter, millions of birds and insects in the most extreme latitudes fly not towards the equator, but towards the poles? And that those animals, when given tracking devices, lose their tracking signal? Did you know that mosquitoes in the northernmost landmass, Greenland, are so large and aggressive they can take out a caribou calf? And did you know that explorers at the South Pole have reported that after a certain latitude, the sub-zero temperatures suddenly rise dramatically, yielding green, iceless land areas and lakes? This strange evidence of warmer regions all indicate that the North and South Pole may hold secrets beyond the idea of Santa Claus. In fact, they support a theory about Earth that some of the most celebrated geologists and astronomers have believed: that Earth is a spherical, spacious planetary body with enormous, continent-sized caverns deep within it, and large entrances miles across at the North and South Pole. They say inner Earth has water, oceans, and luminosity, and that it sustains not only plants and animals, but intelligent life. If this sounds like heresy, lay aside what you think you know, and we'll show you the evidence, the scientists, the legends, and testimonies behind the inner Earth theory, so that you can see why it may be the most game-changing information ever concealed from common knowledge. That miles beneath your feet are ideal conditions for a life-sustaining and inhabitable inner Earth. Who wasn't taught that gravity is what makes an apple fall? We've believed this for roughly 300 or 400 years, since Isaac Newton defined it and its relationship to mass. Well, in 2017, two neutron stars collided and proved, indeed, it's not a force. It's actually a distortion in space-time. According to Einstein, an apple falls from a tree because the apple's responding to a curvature of space-time caused by the planet's mass. There's no attractive force called gravity. Fair to say that's a massive paradigm shift. So, if we were wrong about gravity, could we be wrong about other theories, particularly those that involve it? How we measure Earth's mass. Today, the Cavendish experiment measures the mass of one object based on its tug to another. But even before the redefining of gravity, this theory had flaws. The gravitational conditions in a science lab are nothing like conditions in space. The theory assumes that each particle exerts a fixed force upon all others, ruling out the very real possibility that particles near the surface of a planet might exert a force greater than those deep within it. So, if gravity is no longer a valid theory, and it's used to determine mass, and the mass of the Earth is overstated, then it follows that the masses of all other planets in the solar system are also overstated. If the Earth is cavernous or hollow, then so too is every other planet in the solar system. Some of the greatest scientific minds have challenged the theory of a dense Earth. Around the same time as Newton, geophysicist, mathematician, and astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted the orbit of his comet, said the magnetic anomalies of the Earth could only be the result of a different composition. He believed that beneath the Earth's crust were two thick concentric shells. According to their legend, these colonists were lured to the transition zone. So with satellite, even some of the greatest scientific minds have challenged the theory of a dense Earth. Around the same time as Newton, geophysicist, mathematician, and astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted the orbit of his comet, said the magnetic anomalies of the Earth could only be the result of a different composition. He believed that beneath the Earth's crust were two thick concentric shells, and that each region potentially had its own atmosphere, luminosity, and was possibly even inhabited. If this idea sounds crazy, check out this NASA video taken showing Saturn's North Pole, with the exact counter-rotating fields that Halley described. And in this rare NASA video of Jupiter's pole, you can count up to 15 of these counter-rotating cylinders. Halley also speculated that the poles would have access into Earth, and that the aurora borealis was the result of light emanating from this counter-rotation, exactly as it does in the videos of these other planets. Watch this NASA video closely, and you'll see that the australis borealis appears to be clearly emanating from a dark point on the planet. If you overlay a map on the planet, it's exactly at the point of the South Pole. 100 years later, Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonhard Euler, who's still considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, also proposed that Earth was completely hollow with a central sun in the center, similar to what Halley proposed, agreeing with Halley that holes at the North and South Pole would provide access to it. Germany's most influential mathematician Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss in the early 1800s stated all of our Earth's history, physics, and geography could be explained by Earth being a hollow planet with entrances at the poles. Naturally, satellite images of the poles are going to disprove this craziness, right? Of the South Pole. 100 years later, Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonhard Euler, who's still considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, also proposed that Earth was completely hollow with a central sun in the center, similar to what Halley proposed, agreeing with Halley that holes at the North and South Pole would provide access to it. Germany's most influential mathematician, Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss, in the early 1800s, stated all of our Earth's history, physics, and geography could be explained by Earth being a hollow planet with entrances at the poles. Naturally, satellite images of the poles are going to disprove this craziness, right? Well, there's a problem. NASA's images and videos of poles are rare. They're hard to find. But when they are revealed, they often have cloud cover, ice cover, or questionable anomalies, like simply being blotted out. Stranger still, no planes or satellites are permitted to come within a certain distance of the poles. Well, in November 1968, a satellite photo of the North Pole was released. It showed a large polar opening in absence of cloud cover. Now, it's possible a trick of time-based photography created this illusion, but satellite images since then, showing serious anomalies, do raise questions, particularly the one from Russian space station Mir in 1987, showing light emanating in a very mysterious fashion. And then there are other NASA images of the planets: Venus, Jupiter, the various moons, all showing strange qualities or blotted out poles. In fact, how's it possible to have perfectly hexagonal angles on Saturn? Why do these images from space consistently have their poles concealed? Like this blotted one of Jupiter, where you can actually see light emanating from the center. Was Edgar Allan Poe correct when he said, "Sometimes the best hiding place is the one that's in plain sight"? Another anomaly in measuring Earth's mass happens when we study earthquakes. Since the early 1900s, seismograph readings have proved that Earth does have some density, but not without raising even more questions. You see, when an earthquake occurs, seismic waves are measurable as they spread, but then the signals disappear entirely, only to reappear further on. These shadow zones are believed to be the result of waves hitting a molten core, and there are complicated mathematics theorizing why. But even then, there are many inconsistencies with seismograph readings. It's not a tidy science. So with all things considered, could it be that the simplest solution is simply the accurate one? Is it possible the waves reverberate within a belt-like zone but disappear into very large caverns or underground seas miles beneath the Earth's outer crust? Would that just be too simple an explanation? If the possibility of inner oceans sounds strange, take note. The first of the deepest holes ever drilled into Earth was in Russia, beginning in 1970. It was called the Kola Super Deep Borehole, and it took 20 years to make. As is often the case when humans venture into the unknown, Kola left a few scientific theories in ruin. They discovered unprecedented heat, fossils at depths 8 miles down, and the surprising result? Water, at far deeper depths than had previously been assumed. Then, in 2014, a team of 20 U.S. geophysicists using seismic readings discovered large bodies of water 400 miles into the Earth. They concluded that the mantle transition zone, a rock layer between 400 and 700 kilometers below the Earth's surface, could hold 3 times the amount of water in the world's oceans. One of the team's scientists said, This is direct evidence supporting the hypothesis that the deep Earth holds a lot of water. Modern science can't confirm the physical structure of Earth's interior as a fact, and there are many questions about the existing theory. For example, a forming planet has zero gravity in its center, so its mass accumulates where gravitational and centrifugal forces are balanced, creating a sphere with openings at the top and bottom, like a hurricane of matter in space, not as a solid body. This energetic flow, the torus, is a self-organizing system in nature where energy expands and returns to itself. We see it every day in an orange, a whirlpool, a tornado. It's in the atom, the galaxy. None of these is a dense system. So, let's consider another possibility. Over millions of years, the planet has succumbed to a combination of forces responsible for shaping it. Heating, cooling, convection, carving by lava, running water, and glaciers, but also centrifugal forces, which create inner spaces in a mass revolving on an axis. These natural forces could make a planet more like a honeycomb or Swiss cheese than a perfectly solid rock. So current models of Earth's interior are not fact, they're theories. In the meantime, look at the facts you do know. Every continent has extensive cavernous networks, like Son Doong Cave in Vietnam, with its jungles, rivers, and space to fit a 40-story skyscraper. And there's Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, USA, which is even longer than the 400 miles of it which have so far been explored. Who's to say these spectacular naturally occurring spaces are not found at deeper depths? According to laws of physics, empty spaces are unnatural in nature. So caves have their own ecosystems and water bodies, plant life, animal life. If they extend deep into the earth, life will still fill it. Even the most unhospitable depths of the ocean have life forms and creatures that have adapted to the darkness by creating their own luminosity. As Aristotle said, nature abhors a vacuum. Wherever there is a void, the universe seeks to fill it. So if enormous caverns like those we already know of continue on to reach deep into the earth, what then could be residing in the space miles beneath our feet? Since we're prohibited from flying over or seeing the poles, and we're prohibited from exploring caves without permits or assigned guides, how might we know what exists in inner Earth? Interestingly enough, many of the accounts of this strange, unique land have been told by very respected, credible people. But first, let's look at history. Almost every ancient culture shares legends about interactions with subterranean races. Clearly, some of these are considered to be purgatory for sinners, attempts to deter people from wrongdoing. But other legends, those about AGARTHA, with its cities Shambhala and Potala, have striking resemblances, no matter which continent they originate from. In all legends, these civilizations tell of two beings, very tall giants or very advanced reptilian races. The word AGARTHA is of Buddhist origin. True Buddhists fervently believe in this subterranean empire, which they say has millions of inhabitants and many cities, including the capital, Shambhala, where a supreme ruler dwells. They believe the Dalai Lama is his terrestrial representative, and his messages are transmitted to the lamas in Tibet. They believe that they've been there for thousands of years, sheltering humanity since the terrestrial cataclysms. The Russian artist, philosopher, and explorer Nicholas Roerich published that a Tibetan Lama revealed the capital of Tibet was connected by a tunnel with Shambhala, the heart of the subterranean empire of AGARTHA, and that the entrance of this tunnel was guarded by lamas who were sworn to keep its actual whereabouts a secret from outsiders. Those who are led through this underground passage travel deep into Earth through areas where it becomes so narrow it can be difficult to pass through. According to Tibetans, Shambhala is a physical place, but one that also has an ethereal nature, given its location inside this holistic, evolving planet. Given our understanding of how matter can be warped in space and time by mass, this could make sense. One Gnostic scholar explains the underworld as a plane between spirit and our reality, an area where the ethers of spirit become nature, and nature returns back to spirit, making it both a physical and an apparitional realm. In the ancient epic poem, the Mahabharata, the Hindus also spoke of Aryavarta, the abode of the excellent ones, which was said to be ruled by a supernal race, the Nagas, a half-human, half-reptilian species depicted with jeweled hoods that light their realm. It's said the Nagas possessed cutting-edge technology and had an unpredictable and sometimes merciless nature, known to abduct and torture humans, while at other times influencing positive events on Earth. It's also said they inhabited Patala. Perhaps it's not coincidence, then, that the name of the palace where the lamas guarded the tunnel entrances is the Potala Palace. It also raises questions about the motivation the Chinese government had when they violently overthrew Tibet's peaceful leaders in the 1950s, in a coup which may have cost up to 1 million Tibetan lives. Another Indian epic, the Ramayana, tells the story of the great avatar Rama, a blue-skinned emissary from Agartha who arrived on an air vehicle. These air vehicles were called Vimanas, which means car or chariot of the gods, carrying its occupant through the air. Strangely, flying airships have remained a consistent part of all Inner Earth stories, every one of them. In Africa, a similar tunnel was believed to connect the secret chambers at the base of the Pyramid of Giza with the subterranean world, by which the pharaohs established contact with the gods of the underworld. Ancient Egyptian deities like Ra, Thoth, Anubis had qualities unlike humans: unique height, skin coloring, eyes, often avian or bird-like heads. Another mystery occurred in 985 AD, when the Viking explorer Eric the Red discovered Greenland. By 1410, there was anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 Viking colonists on Greenland's shores. That was the last date, however, that any one of the Viking settlers of Greenland was ever seen again. All of their villages were found abandoned, and their disappearance has become one of the largest unsolved mysteries in our recent history. That is, unless you ask the native people of Greenland, the Inuits. According to these Eskimos, the white men swarmed suddenly northwards to a wonderland that the natives had long known about. They call it the land of endless summer, rich with vegetation and game. According to their legend, these colonists were lured to a land of eternal bliss inside the protective womb of the earth. In the 12th century, an unusual story of underworld beings showed up in Suffolk, England, and is still a part of the town's history today. The Children of Woolpit. Reapers in the area one day discovered 2 small children who had skin with a pale green hue and who spoke an unknown language. And though starving, ate only raw beans. The boy soon died, but after many years and acclamation, the surviving girl finally explained that she and her brother had come from a subterranean land where the sun never shone, and where the light was more like twilight, saying they'd become lost when they followed their cattle into a cave, eventually emerging onto the bright landscape. In the 1908 book, The Smoky God, Willis George Emerson tells the story of Olaf Jensen's incredible journey to Agartha and the 2 years he spent living there with his father. Jensen and his father were traveling in their small fishing boat in an attempt to find the land beyond the north wind when a windstorm carried them through a polar opening into the interior of the Earth. There, they met who he called the Elder Race, friendly, intelligent, lanky 12-foot giants. He said later they were able to grow tall in this unique electrical energy field that was always there inside the Earth, and that these giants were able to live up to 800 years. Jensen described the inner world as warm, where it rained once a day and was filled with highly charged electrical air. There's a density to the atmosphere, he said, and this is what he believes led to the immense vegetation there. The title of the book, Smoky God, refers to the inner world's glowing and smoky sun. Most interesting was his explanation of these fast, noiseless, flying objects on which he rode. He said they had revolving fan-like wheels which destroyed atmospheric pressure, or what he called gravitation, and this force prevented them from falling to one side or the other. After spending 2 years with these beings in AGARTHA, Olaf and his father attempted to return through the opening. On the journey home, however, his father lost his life when an iceberg destroyed their boat. Jensen was later rescued by some fishermen. But when he shared his incredible story, they placed him in a madhouse for the mentally insane, where, sadly, he remained for 28 years. Not until he was 90 years old did he share the story of his life's journey with Emerson, giving him maps of the interior of the Earth, along with the manuscript of his experiences. Around the same time in 1895, the Nobel Prize laureate and Norwegian explorer Dr. Fridtjof Nansen set on an expedition to reach the North Pole. Nansen completely lost his bearings, admitting he couldn't identify the mysterious land which he found, and that lands marked on the map of one of the best-known explorers simply did not exist. He had many unusual things happen, noting that after bitter cold, suddenly the temperature began to rise, and it even became unbearably hot. It was never made clear where Nansen was exactly, but as the expression goes, he was not in Kansas anymore. Deep in the Amazon jungle, the ancient Makushi Indians have remained isolated from advanced civilizations until very recently. They're said to be the guardians of an entrance to inner Earth, and they describe the journey and the beings in vivid detail. They say for 15 days you must traverse through caverns until balls of bright light and glowing discs appear inside the Earth. There, a civilization of very tall beings, 12 to 15 feet, live inside a lush ecosystem of vegetation. This primitive culture also describes how they encounter molten rock at deep depths. Without any modern education, how could they know such detail unless there was some truth to their story? After the First World War, a German occultist group founded the Thule Society to pursue paranormal sciences. They publicized the Tibetan legends about openings into the Earth, and they became obsessed with finding these entrances, with German emissaries even visiting Tibet. This group later endorsed what became the Nazis. As the Third Reich grew in military superiority and geographical dominance, Hitler ordered a team of researchers to find an inner Earth opening in Antarctica. Later, a German U-boat commanded by Heinrich Broden claimed that they had reached the interior of the Earth and even stated that they didn't want to come back, adding, "The Earth is, in fact, hollow." A diagram of AGARTHA was then drawn by a German scientist in 1935 in corroboration with the U-boat navigator. These stories are backed up by maps made for the National Geographic Society in 1966 by the famous cartographer Henrik Behren. In that map, Antarctica can be observed without its thick layer of ice, But the most interesting detail on the map are the underwater passageways spanning across the entire continent, which appear to converge at the exact location identified as the opening into inner Earth. And then there's the disturbing part of this legend, that Hitler and many of his minions escaped Germany in the closing days of World War II and fled to Antarctica, where they escaped into the Earth's interior. For it was after the war the Allies discovered that more than 2,000 scientists from Germany and Italy, along with almost 1 million people, had vanished. According to the Hollow Earth Research Society in Canada, this entire culture still resides there. Of course, they were not all Nazis, but for those guilty of heinous war crimes, a higher power will have to administer justice. No investigation of inner Earth is complete without the unique story relayed by the pioneering American aviator Admiral Richard Byrd Jr., who led numerous expeditions to both poles and wrote detailed logs about his journeys. What stands out about Byrd's story, however, was the personal diary his son published following his death. In this document, he gives vivid details about his expedition to the North Pole in 1947, the geographical anomalies he witnessed, which he couldn't make sense of, being met by unfamiliar flying craft, which assumed control of his plane, and then literally being taken to their leader, the master of the inner Earth civilization. Before you write this story off, it's important to understand the man who wrote it and to examine his behavior while he was alive. Richard Byrd was one of the most highly decorated officers in military history. Among these was the Medal of Honor, the highest medal given by the United States for valor. He fought for the Allies in both World Wars and led 2 huge military expeditions to Antarctica following World War II. He was an efficient, concise leader, and every trip he made, he kept detailed logs of just facts. He was not a poet or a storyteller. The idea a man of this rank and stature would fabricate stories is unimaginable. You only need to see Byrd in his documentaries or read his writings to see that he sought to live with integrity, that he understood the responsibility of his words and choices on the lives of those reporting to him and to the nation that he served. So when Byrd returned from his travels and was interviewed on the Longines Chronicles on live TV in 1954, the hyperbolic statements he made were, and still are, somewhat confusing and mysterious. He said things like, "I'd like to see the land beyond the pole." Now, he didn't say to, around, or near it. He called it the land of everlasting mystery, the most peaceful place in the world, and a vast new territory not on any map. He said it was an area as big as the U.S., never seen by a human being, and the most valuable and important place left in the world for science. Prior to another expedition, he said, "This is the most important expedition in the history of the world." And the one he repeated the most was, "It's the center of the great unknown." These are mysterious when you consider that he's referring to either a large mass of ice or a land mass covered with ice. Even if he were speaking of the military significance of this place, to call it peaceful and mysterious are hardly the words of a strategizing military officer. So we must conclude that as one of the nation's highest-ranking military leaders, he was also sworn to secrecy. These statements raise the question, was Byrd upholding his vow to secrecy for national security while being just truthful enough to share information that would allow him to abide by his principles of integrity? In February of '47, Byrd, the one man who has done the most to make the North Pole a known area, made the following statement: "I'd like to see the land beyond the pole, the center of the great unknown." Millions of people read this statement in their newspapers or heard it on the radio broadcast. Did they look at their globes? What land was he talking about? If you look at the map, calculate the distance from all the known lands near it, and none of them are within 200 miles of the pole. In fact, Byrd himself called it no known land, that after 1,700 miles, he said he hadn't reached the end of it. He should have been back to civilization, right? But he wasn't. He should have seen nothing but ice-covered ocean, or at the very most, partially open ocean. Instead, he was flying over green, lush areas, including lakes and mountains. It was already published that he had discovered 2 unknown land areas measuring a total of 4,000 miles across, and yet, instead of receiving notoriety like Christopher Columbus, his story disappeared. Was Byrd trying to say what he knew without revealing it outright? Was anybody paying attention? To add to this confusion, in 1956, the editor of Flying Saucer magazine, Ray Palmer, wrote a detailed story on Byrd's discoveries. Apparently, however, as the issue headed to press, they mysteriously disappeared. And strangely, the printing plates were found badly damaged, so a reprint couldn't be done. Some other interesting, indisputable facts about the time were that, up to this point, there had been a few books published about the North Pole having entrances into the Earth. Another thing was that Byrd was accused of lying in effort to receive credit for being the first person to the North Pole, an accusation that seems somewhat inconsistent with a man of his character. Another thing that Byrd shared was that the poles are concave, not convex as thought, and that the South Pole is 10,000 feet high, whereas the North Pole is 10,000 feet low. It was well documented that there was a large spike in temperature as he approached the pole. But one of the biggest mysteries involving Byrd may have happened right after World War II with Operation High Jump. While it was said at the time it was an expedition to Antarctica to find coal and other resources, that story later changed to training military personnel and establishing a research base. Being the first person to the North Pole, an accusation that seems somewhat inconsistent with a man of his character. Another thing that Byrd shared was that the poles are concave, not convex as thought, and that the South Pole is 10,000 feet high, whereas the North Pole is 10,000 feet low. It was well documented that there was a large spike in temperature as he approached the pole. But one of the biggest mysteries involving Byrd may have happened right after World War II with Operation High Jump. While it was said at the time it was an expedition to Antarctica to find coal and other resources, that story later changed to training military personnel and establishing a research base. In the meantime, you can't help but wonder why either mission would require 33 aircraft, 13 Navy ships, and almost 5,000 soldiers, and mysteriously result in loss of lives. Leaks later revealed that the true mission was to retrieve the missing Nazi leaders from their refuge at Antarctica. But Byrd cut the 8-month mission short after what the Chilean press reported as troubles with many fatalities, though the event was clearly downplayed in the U.S. Following a military-aided evacuation, the force returned. Their stories immediately became classified as top secret, but inevitable leaks revealed that there were attacks by highly advanced saucer-shaped airships. The Secretary of the Navy, by this time the Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, started to talk. President Truman forced him to resign, and he was soon taken to Bethesda Naval Hospital's psychiatric ward, where he was prevented from seeing or talking to anyone, including his own wife. When this high-ranking man was found dead, of course, it was ruled a suicide. Case closed. Another strange thing is in 1947, following the sudden end of his military expedition, Byrd spoke with a reporter for the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio and told him that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but that it was a bitter reality that in the case of a new war, the continental U.S. would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. This is where Bird's posthumous diary comes in. Though he remained faithfully silent, albeit mysterious, shortly after his death, his son published his diary to reveal a very different account than what the public had been told. It started like this. I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. It concerns my Arctic flight on the 19th day of February in the year of 1947. There comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance, and one must accept the unavailability of the truth. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation at this writing. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny, but I must do my duty here for all to read one day. Hopefully, the greed and exploitation of certain of mankind can no longer suppress that which is truth. Bird then continued to unveil a picture that we had not imagined in this diary. He said that he traveled 1,700 miles on this journey, and he was so surprised when ice below gave way to lush green forests, lakes, rivers, and mountains. He saw animal life, and to his dismay, realized he was looking at a large mammoth that resembled those now extinct. He noted that everything had unique and inexplicable color, and suddenly he realized in shock that there were some kind of space vehicles flying beside him. They escorted him, and he saw an entire city and was safely landed despite the fact he had no control over his plane. Once there, he was graciously greeted by civilians, and they called this place AGARTHA. Bird's dismay upon arrival is clear. He and his crew were then taken to meet what they were told was the ruler of AGARTHA, the Master, whom he described as delicate and ancient. They were told they'd been allowed to enter, despite these invisible barriers, because of his high moral and ethical character. The ruler went on to say that ever since the U.S. had dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, their race had been very concerned for human safety and the survival of the planet. When they intervened, however, their craft had been attacked by our militaries, and Bird was asked to share this message and warning to civilization. Their hosts then guided them to their plane and back to the outer world. In closing, Bird said he briefed the Pentagon of his message from the Master, was interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team, and ordered to remain silent in regard to all that he learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible is all he could call it. He concluded, I'm reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders. 10 years later, he wrote a final entry. These last few years elapsed since 1947 have not been kind. I must state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret as directed all these years. It's been completely against my values of moral right. Now, I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me. But as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I've seen the truth, and it has quickened my spirit, and has set me free. I've done my duty towards the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now, the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown. Needless to say, this is an extraordinary story from an extraordinary man. Would Bird's own son publish false information that would defame his beloved father? Or did Bird himself falsify all this story in order to make a cruel joke of his life and legacy? Whether or not you believe this story, his influence, moral stature, and valor can hardly be argued. The esoteric Tibetan teacher, Jual Kul, or DK, during life channeled information from his location in Tibet to Alice Bailey in the United States, whom he later met personally. Even after his death, Bailey continued to receive information from this enlightened spiritual teacher, called the Messenger of the Masters, committed to world service in the healing of humanity. DK confirmed that Byrd did indeed travel to inner Earth as he claimed, that there's a sun there, but not like our outer sun. He said that the aurora borealis was not caused by this, but by a different light source, and that the openings at the poles were very wide and ships and planes could fly into it. However, a yet unknown energy field will camouflage it and naturally protect it. He confirmed that there were entrances to the inner Earth in Egypt, Tibet, and the Yucatan, and also added that there were other entrances in the Bermuda Triangle, the Soviet Union, and Africa. He said that there were different races in the inner Earth, just like on the surface, and some of them quite tall. He also confirmed the U.S. government and other countries are aware of the inner Earth and are covering up the fact as they are the UFOs and extraterrestrials. Another man, Dallas Thompson, appeared on Coast to Coast Radio. He was a personal trainer in California who, during an out-of-body death experience, had revelations of inner Earth. After his recovery, he became an avid researcher, intending to find and travel the hole that Byrd said to have entered at the North Pole. In 2003, after months of planning, however, he mysteriously disappeared. Finally, the most notable whistleblower of the secret space program, Corey Goode, has given consistent and extensive details on inner Earth. Among his claims are that there is a huge population currently living in Antarctica, that the United States is not the only nation that's created underground bases that are inhabited by thousands of people. Corey Goode has shared that the Mayans were not defeated, but in fact retreated to the inner Earth. He claims that the Mayans have crafts which appear to be rock, but they look like long cigars, cylindrical in shape. Goode's description of the Mayan craft are not unlike this one, which entered our solar system from a distant galaxy not long ago and has since been recorded as speeding up. He also notes that there are many people channeling what they believe are pleiadiens, but those are in fact inner Earth beings protecting their location by claiming to be off the planet. Goode also said that disclosure will be an earth-shattering event, but a necessary one, and he implores everyone to see the Earth as a maternal living thing, inviting us to seek a deeper relationship with our planet. In our drive for power, resources, and control, we've become disconnected and impartial to the effects our choices have on the balance of nature. In conclusion, perhaps you hear these stories and can only hear legend. They're just too fantastical to be true. Suspend your disbelief for a moment, however, and other tales start to make more sense. The explanation of Earth's strange magnetic anomalies and its shadow zones. It explains the thousands of mysterious crafts, including the many which have been witnessed shutting down nuclear weapons. That they could be right under our feet, not coming from some distant place in space. It explains the obsession with Antarctica and the complete denial by governments of all unidentified flying objects. It explains the omission of the poles in satellite pictures, the laws preventing one from flying over them. It explains the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of Germans at the end of World War II, and even the survival of the human race throughout what Mayan calendar claims was 4 Earth cataclysms. The Earth has many mysteries, and you only need to turn on the series Planet Earth to marvel at how little we know from our perspective. After all, remember, it was only a few hundred years ago that humanity believed you would fall off the end of the planet if you sailed away too far. Exploring the science and the stories about a hollow Earth has revealed far more information than we could possibly share in this video. But we hope you'll continue to investigate the topic yourself. In the words of Richard Feynman, the famous quantum mechanics physicist, if you thought that science was certain, well, that's just an error on your part.